So, David, I'm a scientist. I've developed this whiz-bang new widget. You're the farmer. What's going to make you want to take this widget and invest in it and integrate it into your farming system?
Okay. Well, the first thing, it has to be easy to adopt because we've talked about time factors. Farmers do have a range of conflicting time demands. So whatever they're going to take on needs to be time capable. They need to be able to afford it. Obviously, if you're going to sell them something which costs a lot of money, it's got to be proven and it's got to be reliable, and they have to trust it. And, if you can clearly demonstrate that it has got not just a financial benefit, but also a benefit for time and perhaps the quality of what they produce, they will look at it. But also it needs to fit within their own worldview of what they're interested in. So we all know that, farmers will readily adopt a new header because they like machinery. They do go look at machinery. They do like machinery. You put on a field day, if you have a machine out there, a new machine, they'll mill around the machine, have a look, talk about it. You've got to try and move them on quickly to other things. But it has to fit within their own view of what is going to be useful for them. So, for example, on Eyre Peninsula, we've had a lot of uptake of deep ripping, particularly where we're mixing in the topsoil into fairly impoverished lower soils. And because that does use machinery, it does use some existing equipment, but it's just clearly logical and it's something farmers can see and feel makes a difference. It's now been widely adopted.
Yeah, it's easily demonstrable.
And yet other techniques, like, for example, some of the regenerative practices, well, they take a longer time frame to demonstrate a response. The results are perhaps a little bit more nebulous, like the principles are a little bit more nebulous. If we start to talk about, say, soil chemistry or soil physical constraints to farmers, they've had a longer history of exposure to that data and information, so they get it a bit more. But when you start to talk about soil biology, every farmer out there recognises it's important, but how do you measure it? How do you improve it? And is it going to make a difference that year?
Yeah, so that confidence as well. Yeah,
yes.
Absolutely. And so, but if I was, say, just to rewind back a little bit, I'm a scientist, I've just got some funding to develop a widget. How could I do it better?
Firstly, you need to talk to farmers. That's the first thing you do because you need to ask them what's going to work, what's going to be useful. There's no point designing a widget which, let's say, requires internet capacity when half of Eyre Peninsula hasn't got it. You need to think about, well, is this widget practically usable? So for probably 20 years, you've had yield mappers appearing on headers. Most farmers would now have a yield mapper on their header. Most don't know how to use it. While they'll see the results as they're driving in the cab, to actually download it into a usable map, they now have to access somebody else who may or may not be available, depending on where you are, and it's additional cost. So
that's a big one, and that's really come out in the surveys as well. Things like precision farming. If you're really clear on how much of whatever substance it is your soil is needing, then you can massively reduce the amount that you need to apply. Whereas I've heard agronomists also suggest just put the same amount on every year. If you're being precise about what you need, then that can bring better outcomes. Quite an easy cost-benefit analysis in some way. Yet still only 20% of farmers in some of the highest regions of uptake are doing precision farming.
So you've got to have access to technical support.
Yeah, you've got to have that access to technical support. But what we also found, especially in West Australia, they said, look, we want to understand how farmers are using data. What understanding do they have of data? And what we found was that knowledge and confidence in managing data makes all the difference in working with these new technologies. But as we move into an era and an age of AI and drones and all of this amazing data being generated everywhere, can we do the basics? Can farmers interpret that data? Do they need another person or another interface to be able to interpret that? And then once they've got that data, do they know how to apply it? Are they confident in that? And have they got the internet to get that data from their header to where it needs to go? So it's that all of those things are really important. And certainly we're finding that internet connectivity is a basic that we still don't have in place if we're really going to be using data effectively on farms.
Yeah, but there's also just a personal thing about, is a farmer wanting to use that type of technology? And certainly younger farmers, we're definitely seeing that. They are uptaking newer forms of technology, and they enjoy and hence use it more. Whereas those older farmers who don't particularly like using it, either because it's it's just something I haven't been trained to do, they haven't got experience in, but it may just be a personal thing, is that no, they'd rather be out fixing up a fence rather than sitting behind a desk.
So like a big take-home message here is, if you want to understand what a farmer needs, ask the farmer before you develop it.
Yes.
And then you might want to take on the widget.
Well, that's
you
right.
ask for the widget.
Yeah, and actually farmers generally do like widgets and things, only if they can use them and see a use. But yes, you're right. You need to go to the user first and then ask them. I think through my experience over the years is that, you get a group of farmers who show similar interests and trust each other, particularly through, say, a farming systems group, they are much more likely to take adoption forward. And, again, those social linkages and information networks are really important to provide that confidence to give it a go. And, we've run programs in the past called, like Have a Crack or paired paddocks, where you compare one practice in one paddock compared to practice in another. Those sorts of things get taken on board because they're visual and people can go out and see the results for themselves. They're on being delivered by a trusted organisation, whether that be a DPI or a farming system group or just their neighbour.
Exactly. Yeah, so what you've got there is a whole range of things. So the event is organised by a trusted source, and also it's the farmer, so that they're actually listening to and getting the information from. So across all regions, other farmers is the most important information source. Like where people get their information from varies a lot across regions, and quite a lot of that does have to do with age and other factors. But yeah, if people are feeling that the local farmer is doing something that they might be open to trying, they'll be more open to try if they can see it and they can see that it's worked, they can see that it's profitable, they can see that it's improving their soil. But also that trust of that group that's organising the event is important as well.
Yeah, so on our peninsula we have every spring Sticky Beak Days, and they used to be organised through the local Ag Bureau branch. A lot of those branches have folded, and again, this comes back to time pressures, but still groups of farmers will organise these, and they'll usually involve probably, a specialist in some area to come along and visit, or they usually have agency reps there or retailer reps there. And those events generally get very well attended, but they are organised by the farmers themselves.
Exactly, the Sticky Beak. They're looking over the fence. They're seeing that local success, and that has come up as really important for the most risk averse of farmers. So those are some of the key considerations.